Okay, hey YouTube. I want to make a quick video on laning in the off lane. This is speaking as somebody who's been doing mostly support, so position 4. I'm not too experienced with position 3 off laning, so just caveat there. So what I've been trying to figure out for myself is I see the advice all the time not to play near the enemy tower, not to play near their safe lane tower. And I've been trying to figure out why not play near there? Like, what's the reason not to? I've seen a few kind of high level answers, but after playing a few games here, I wanted to kind of summarize all the things that I've learned here, because I feel like if somebody's probably a long time player, most of the stuff is kind of second nature and they probably don't think about it a lot. But this stuff is useful for me. So why not do your offlaning close to the enemy's safe lane tower? So caveat on this, I'm a Herald 1, so I am the lowest of the low in terms of skill level. But I've been having fun with it, but maybe that makes this more useful for some people who are really low skill level. Maybe it has some stuff that maybe other people aren't thinking about. I don't know. But so with all that said, caveat emptor, here's some of the things I've learned so far. So the kind of the basic answer to this that I see a lot of times is that, okay, if the enemy team is on another safe lane tower, it's safer for them, so you don't want to be there. And if you're playing near their tower, it makes it harder for you to secure kills, and it's safer for you to be closer to your tower. And I think all that's true, but it's just I think there's a lot more detail and nuance to it. That's what I want to go into here. So going into this here, these are the benefits that I've seen so far. So these are the benefits to the safe lane, so the team that you're playing against as a position 3 or 4. So if they are playing near the safe lane, the main benefits I've seen so far, and I'm sure this is not exhaustive, and people can probably talk to all the other benefits there are, but by playing near their tower, they have the tower nuke. I'm calling it the tower nuke, but it's basically just the tower hitting anything that comes close to it for a lot of damage. The tower has an aura as well, and this was a key piece for me to understand here, is how the tower aura works and the benefits it provides. It gives you easy access to a camp for pulling and for wave management, and it gives you good easy positioning for getting CS for your carry. So I'm sure there's tons more stuff, but I want to go into all of these benefits in a little more detail here. So this might be a little long too, because it's I tried to make this as thorough as I could. So starting out with the tower aura. So here I'm in a game, and then I'm sitting next to the tower. So you see this tower protection aura right here. So this aura is, I don't have the game pulled up right now, but if you hold Alt and you look at the range of the tower, that aura applies as long as you're standing within range of the tower, from what I saw. And so if you can see my mouse here, the range of the tower was, when I was playing, was somewhere, right around here. So, a pretty decent range around the tower. So what's the aura give you? It gives you 3 armor and 1 health regen, as long as you're within range of this tower. So being on the safe lane, being the carry or the support, if you're standing in range of that and you're last hitting and stuff, then you're getting those passive benefits. So, and this was, so it's okay, what do you get? You get the 3 armor and you get the 1 health regen. So next question is what would it take to get that through items, to get 3 armor and 1 health regen per second? So these are a couple ways to get it. There might be other ways that are cheaper or better, but these were the easiest ones that I saw. So if you wanted to get 1 health regen, you could get 2.5 of these mangoes here. So 2 of them would be 0.8 health regen, and then another half of that for the extra 0.2. So if you multiply that out, 65 gold times 2.5 is 162.5 gold. Or for the ring regen, this is 1.25 health regen. So if you take 80% of that, and I calculate all this beforehand, that's the only reason I have the numbers here. But so 80% of this 175 gold would be 140 gold. So between the two of them, if you wanted to get the same health regen that the tower aura gives you, you'd have to get one of these to spend that amount of gold. So the cheaper way to get it is with 140 gold for the ring regen. And then to get the armor, the 3 armor, you could get the ring of protection. To get 3 of those, it'd be 1.5 of these rings of protection. So 1.5 times 175 gold is 262 gold, basically. So depending on these, in order to get the same amount of stats that the aura gives you, so again, the aura gives you 3 armor, 1 health regen. To get that amount of stats, it's the equivalent of about 425 gold with the mango route, or 402.5 with the ring of regen route. So basically, just by standing in the aura, you're getting like 400 gold worth of passive regen for you. Now, it doesn't last with you throughout the game. It doesn't build into other items that you can use later on. But in the early game, when you're like just starting laning, and any gold you can get is really precious and valuable because you're not strong yet and you're dealing with harassment from the offlane. Any gold you can get is super valuable. So getting these stats for free just by standing in this position seems pretty valuable. So also really important. So if the carry and support on the safe lane, if both of those characters can stand under the tower, then they get you get double the benefit, right? Because they both receive the passive aura. So they both get combined, they get about 800 gold worth of defensive stats. So that's something to think about, is as long as the enemy is standing under their tower, they have like a free 800 gold worth of stats that they're getting just for standing there. In the earlier in the game you are, and the earlier the laning is, like the more valuable that is, right? Because at the very beginning of the game, 800 gold's super valuable, but as you get later in the game, it's not as valuable because you can farm it up quicker, and you're more powerful and things like that. So having that large amount of gold worth of stats right from the beginning seems like it should be pretty valuable. So also, kind of not just having the stats, but because it gives their team those free defensive stats, that frees up that amount of gold in theory, right? Because if let's say I'm playing somebody in the safe lane and I'm dealing with harassment from the off lane, and I know I need some health regen in order to deal with the harassment. Well, if I'm getting that from the tower, if I'm getting 1 health regen for the tower, and that ends up being all that I need to succeed in the lane, then I don't have to spend that gold on the ring of regen, and instead I can spend that gold on damage items or whatever else, which kind of starts to snowball the power level. Right, so it's pretty cool. And so conversely too, so it's if you're playing against the enemy near their safe lane tower and you're an offlaner here, so if you want to compete with that free regen they're getting here, the regen and the armor they're getting, then you might have to spend your own gold on mangoes or salves or something to in order to trade with them and to harass the enemy down. And so it's like it gives the enemy team this amount of gold worth of stats for free as long as they're standing under the tower. It frees up that amount of gold for the enemy team where they don't have to spend on these stats, so they can spend on stuff that's more valuable for them. And as the offlaner, you might have to throw away your own gold just to trade effectively with them, right? Because you have to keep your health and your mana up so that you don't just get ganked and forced out of lane or something. So pretty kind of disastrous, when you kind of put it like that. But and does it play out like that every game? No, definitely not. But it's stuff to think about. Now, here another piece to this too. So even if the safe laner is playing bad, so like let's say that they got out of position, they took a lot of hits from the offlaner in the support, and maybe they're down to half health or something. So even if they play bad, they can just like retreat under their tower. So if I go back to, like, they can just kind of retreat under the tower and hang out kind of around this area here on the bottom side of the tower. And as an offlaner or a support, it's like once they're over here, like you can't, it's hard to get in there to harass them, because if you try to harass them, they're going to see you coming if you come in from this angle. But if you try to use the invisibility in the jungle over here to harass them, well, if they're sitting on the other side of the tower, your spells probably aren't going to reach them from over there. And so they can just kind of hang out here pretty safely if their health is low. So even if they're playing kind of badly, they have like a fairly safe spot they can retreat to right here. So that's another benefit they get from this. Let's say they play badly, they get down to half health. Then when they're under the tower, they can use that the health regen aura to help get them topped back up. Oh, and they could also soak up experience, right? So if they're sitting down under here, maybe they're not comfortable enough going in for last hits, but maybe they can at least soak up experience from the wave as it's coming through. All right, so it kind of keeps them active in the lane, regenerating, gathering experience instead of being forced out of the lane there. Also, another benefit to this too. So this passive aura, it doesn't take up an item slot, right? It's just an aura that's applied to their characters. And so because it doesn't take up an item slot, the safe laners, they can use all 6 of their item slots for whatever they want. So, as you're in the early game and you have lots of intermediate components for parts, you can rush those out and use those to snowball your power level. But if, for example, if they needed that 1 health regen or that extra armor to lane effectively, and if they had to buy these things, if they had to buy a ring of protection or a ring of regen or whatever, then that would eat up an item slot. So because it's an aura, they can, it's kind of like they have like 8 item slots in a way, because they have the regen, which is, like the kind of like a ring of protection plus a ring of regen or something, like 2 item slots, but then they have their other 6 item slots to use for whatever they want. So pretty cool. So lots of benefits for the safe laners there if they can stay near the tower. Okay, so yeah, in terms of like detriments for the offlaners, so it's not just that being here is beneficial for the safe laners, but it's also not the best if you're an offlaner, because so if the enemy carry or support, if they are sitting in that tower aura, then they also get the free 3 armor here from the aura. So they get 3 armor and health regeneration. So because they're getting 3 armor, if you're trying to harass the carry or the support, the damage you're going to do less damage to them because of that armor. So your harassment is going to be less effective against them. And then whenever you do harass them, they're going to recover from it more quickly because they have the free health regen from the tower. So it makes your job trying to harass them, it makes it less effective. Right? So it's if you're trying to do your job as an offlaner and harass them out of the lane and make them slow down their build-up, then that makes the job harder if they're near the tower. And also, again, if you're having to spend your own gold on tangos and salves and clarities and stuff to keep up with the regen that they have, then that's slowing down your power snowballing. Right? So, so not so good as an offlaner. All right, so that was kind of the aura piece. So that's one big benefit to the safe lane team. If they stay near the tower, they get the aura, and it has all those benefits for them. And then the next piece, so the tower nuke, or just the tower damage. So it does a lot of damage, and it gives them safety because if they're sitting near their tower, they can, as an offlaner, you don't want to dive in on their tower unless you know it's a guaranteed kill and you can get out. So, and because they have that safety, they can hang out at a little bit lower health, right? If the tower wasn't there and they were at 50% health, 60% health, if the tower wasn't there, then maybe you could successfully gank them. But so the tower acts as a kind of deterrent to you as the offlaner from doing what you want to do. That's not good for you as an offlaner. All right. So next category stuff, positioning. So what are the benefits and detriments? So if you're playing close to the enemy's tower, then you're more at risk of a gank. Just for the simple reason of, if you're close to their tower and somebody rotates to gank you, like you're not close to the safety of your tower, your escape routes are kind of cut off, and you're kind of forced to fight the enemy. So that's not good, right? It's not good to get ganked. You want to avoid that if you can. So what else? So keeping the creep wave away from their tower. So if you can keep it away from their tower, then you're denying them of the aura. So if you deny them of the aura, then your harassment's going to be more effective because, again, they'll have 3 less armor from the tower aura. So you'll be more effective when you're harassing them, and they'll have less health regen. So as a result, in theory, if you're harassing them and they're not in that aura, they're going to have to spend more gold on regen. So, and if you're lucky, they get throwaway regeneration, so tangos and clarities, rather than items that build into their mid-game items. So basically, if you can force them to spend their gold on throwaway regeneration stuff, then they're not spending that gold on items that snowball their power level, right? So, and one way to do that, keeping them out of that tower aura, right? They'll have to pick up regen, all else being equal. They'll have to pick up more regeneration, that is, all else being equal. And likewise, maybe you don't kill them while they're outside of the tower aura, but maybe you can force them to teleport to base. And if you can do that, then you can waste their time, their gold, experience, and CS. So, whereas if they're under the tower, it can be very difficult early on to force to kill them or force them to teleport back, because again, they have that kind of safe zone that they can play in. So all this is good. All right, now pulling. So, all right, so now if you're playing the lane close to your offlane tower, so if you're not near the safe lane side, but near your own offlane tower, if you can play near that offlane tower, then it makes it more easy and more reliable to do pulls. Just because if you're playing close to their tower, the safe lane tower, then you have to kind of navigate through the jungle. You have to walk a long ways. You have to dodge through some trees, and then you have to hit the creep with the spell. They have to drag it to the wave, right? So it just kind of wastes a lot of time if you're trying to do pulling. So, and because you're wasting your own time by having to do all that walking around, you're not spending that time denying creeps or last hitting or harassing the enemy or deterring them from doing what they want to do. Right? So just I guess it's just another benefit. If you're playing closer to your tower, then you're closer to your camp, which makes pulling faster. You waste less time on it, and then you're able to spend more time last hitting, denying, harassing, etc. Whereas if you play close to the enemy tower, then you have to navigate around the jungle, walk back and forth, and waste valuable time doing that. So just a smaller benefit as well is that the closer the wave is to your tower, the shorter your run back is. So if you have to TP back to base and then run to the lane, then that's a shorter run back. Whereas compared to if you had TP back base and you had to run all the way up to the enemy's safe lane tower, right? It's just a longer distance. And so as a result, you'll on average, you'll soak up less passive experience from being in range of the creeps when they die. When that happens, you'll get less last hits. Is it going to be a significant on a match to match basis? Probably not, but it's an extra advantage you have if the creeps are closer to your tower. But so are there any advantages to playing near the enemy's safe lane tower, right? So and this is the big piece that has made it tempting for me, again, as a Herald 1, somebody who's not good at the game but loves to play it. Like it's really tempting to play up here near this tower because you can hide away in the trees here, and I've been doing a lot of Nature's Prophet, so I have a decent ranged attack here, so you can kind of hide in the trees here. The safe lane can't see you unless they ward it well, and then you can just kind of poke them with ranged hits here. So it's tempting to play up here. Oops. So it's like that is an advantage. If you're playing up there, then you can kind of hide in the jungle, and then force them to spend gold on wards, and then get in a ward battle with them where they're warding and dewarding and stuff, and just kind of generally wasting their time with that kind of stuff. But again, the enemy team, they can counter it, because if they want to defend against that, all they have to do is, so let's say I'm playing up here and trying to harass them, all they have to do is just move down here, right? And then it's kind of, the advantage goes away, because from here I can't hit them without walking into the tower's range, taking tower hits. And so, it's nice when it works in maybe in some of these lower level easy games, but it's easily countered. And so the other piece too is you can use it to kind of deny pulls of the enemy's camp over there. So if you go right here, so if you're playing up here close to the tower, then you kind of have an eye on the enemy's camp right here. And so if they go to pull, then you're kind of in place to kind of contest it or fight them for it or deter them from pulling. But the thing is, though, if the enemy's already playing under the tower and the wave is here, then they don't really have much reason to pull the wave back too much further, from what I understand, because they're already playing in a good position. And so it's like, even though you can see what they're doing with their wave here, and you can potentially contest it, like, it doesn't really matter, because they've, like, why would they pull when they're already near their tower in like a good position? And so it's like it seems like it should be a benefit to hang out up here and prevent that, but I don't think it really buys you much. Again, caveat being that I'm not good at the game. Yeah. So those are some of the positioning thoughts here. Now, wave management considerations. So again, if you're close to your own camp, then it makes it a little easier to adjust your wave equilibrium, because depending on in any given moment of the game and with any given wave that's coming out, maybe you want to push it, maybe you want to pull it. It just kind of depends on how the game's going. But keeping the wave close to the camp on your side, it allows you to, if you decide that you do need to pull it, you're kind of right there in position and ready to pull it whenever you need to. Compared to if you're playing near their tower, then you have to move out of position and waste a lot of time, stuff like that. Another nice piece too is if you're playing close to your camp, then if the enemy wants to go back and if they want to pull their camp, so for example, if we look at the screenshot, so let's say that the wave is kind of, imagine here, I don't have all the screenshots for this, but imagine the wave is pushed up and it's near the other camp on the other side of the jungle here, and people are playing there. And so, all right, let's say that the enemy team says, okay, I want to pull the creep wave back here. So in order to do that, their support or somebody, they're going to have to walk all the way back from the wave, go to the camp, they're going to have to time it right to intercept the wave, and then get the pull off, right? So by keeping the wave further away from their tower and further away from their camp, it makes it so that if they do want to do a pull, then they have to waste time doing that. So, like, and let's say that the support is going to pull with their camp. They're wasting time, but they're also not soaking up experience from the wave. They're not getting last hits or denies when that's happening, and so again, that helps you out. Just wasting their time in the lane. All right, and this is the other piece too. So, if the wave is pushed up to your side of the lane, relatively speaking, so it wastes the support's time, but it also puts the carry at risk too, because if the carry is having to solo farm the lane and you have your offlaner and your position 4 fighting against the carry there, while their hard support is rotating to pull the camp, then okay, now it's a 2v1 and the carry's in a risky position and they don't have the tower sitting beside them to help them out. So it puts the carry at risk, and so that's going to mean they'll probably play cautiously, which, they might miss some CS, miss some denies and stuff, which gives you an advantage. All right. So, and because the wave's under your control, and because they haven't been receiving the passive regen from the tower, it should be easier to push the wave out and grab the Lotus. So, and if you can do that, grab the Lotus, then you get extra regen for your team, but you can use that that means less gold you have to spend on regen on your side, and then you can snowball your items coming to you. And yeah, so so in the thought here is that it's extra bad for the enemy team if you deny them the Lotus pool, is my thinking on it, because kind of think about it as, if the enemy team has been spending the whole laning phase hanging out here by their safe lane tower, that they've been getting this health regeneration the whole time in the armor, and so they're probably pretty sitting good, at least health wise, and so they may not need the Lotus pool regeneration as much. But compare that to if the lane is pushed out and if they're playing where they don't have this free regen here, and they're taking a lot of harass, but they can't fall back to their tower to the harass, then it's like, okay, you could easily see a situation where they're playing further forward, they're getting harassed down, and they really need the Lotus pull in order to stay in the lane, right? So by keeping the wave closer to your tower and denying the enemy team that regen, it makes the Lotus pull way more valuable for that team. And so by you having better control over the wave and being able to push it out easier, then maybe it gives you an extra advantage. I don't know, this stuff isn't the most well thought through. This is just thoughts of somebody who's been playing a lot of Herald 1 and trying to learn and get better at it. So hopefully it all makes sense. And then just another one, if you get the creeps under your tower, if you pull them all the way back to your tower, then now you're reversing the aura. So you're getting the 800 gold worth of passive stats on your side, and you're denying it to the enemy team. So, right, you just kind of take that advantage and you flip it and give it to your team instead of the enemy team. And you have the tower nuke as well. And so overall, the thinking is that if the enemy team can play under their tower, they're comfortable, right? So again, looking back here, if I'm this Drow Ranger and I'm hanging out under the tower here, getting last hits and stuff and soaking up experience, and if the enemy offlane and support, if they're trying to do some stuff over in the jungle here, I don't know, I feel like I don't really care too much because I'm getting the free regen and stuff. I have the tower as a backup here, and I could just focus on last hitting and building my items up. So like, this is a comfortable spot to be in as a safe lane carry. But if I'm having to fight way far up in the lane, that is not comfortable, because if I start getting harassed or ganked, then I'm kind of right. I'm gonna have to start getting regen, and I'm right. It can go not well. So they're gonna be comfortable under their tower, and as an offlaner, you probably don't want them to be comfortable when they're playing. You probably want them to be cautious, out of position, wasting their gold on tangos, clarities, regen, stuff like that, missing their last hits and denies because they're worried about getting ganked or chipped down. and you want them to be in position so that your team can get a gank without them just like retreating behind their tower or TPing away or something. So, anyways, hope all that was helpful. And the reason I kind of did this big rant is because it was just this question here is why not sit near their tower and offlane near them there, because it's like the invisibility of the jungle is so promising, and it seems like it's so valuable, and you kind of block them from pulling their camps, and you can contest that stuff, and it's an aggressive way to play, and it's like these kinds of answers, I feel like it kind of starts to answer the question, but I feel like there's a lot more detail to it. So I don't know, hopefully that was useful. See you later.